Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, here, members of the MEK and friends of the Iranian people all over the world, and especially to Mrs. Rajavi. I wish you were here, but I know you've got important work to do elsewhere. So much has happened in our world since the 7th of October of 2023. It was a shocking day to see the assault by Hamas on Israel. And I'm sure that there were leadership in Iran which was very, very pleased to see this, because as most of us understood, it was the beginning of what Iran thought would be a major campaign to destroy the little Satan. It was executed without regards to the welfare of the Israelis, of course, but also without regard to the welfare of the people of Gaza. It was an action deliberately designed to provoke an Israeli attack on Gaza. And in fact, that's exactly what happened. And I'm sure that the mullahs in Iran expected that to be followed then by a surge of violence from Hezbollah, unleashing thousands of rockets against Israel, the axis of resistance then overturning and attacking other governments in the region, and then followed by some victorious swarm of missiles to destroy and obliterate Israel. But if that was the plan, the opposite actually happened. The results of October 7th have resulted in a huge defeat for the government of Iran, a huge setback in its campaign to become the dominant power in the region, and a growing opportunity for change inside Iran. How did it happen? What exactly happened? Well, first of all, the world was outraged by the actions of Hamas in Israel. And inside Israel, there was a determination that this was the moment. Netanyahu had worked for years trying to build American support to take action directly against Iran. Going back even to my earlier visits in Israel in 2007, it was on the lips of Israeli leaders. They saw the hostility. They saw the fear in their own people of what could happen, but they took no action. Gaza empowered Israel to take this action, and it did take action. So first in Gaza, then against Hezbollah, with the very, very successful tactic of going against the Hezbollah leadership with their pagers and then the cell phones. What happened then was the collapse of the Assad regime in Syria, as people in Syria recognized that Assad was a failing government. He had repressed his own people. He had built an alliance with these mullahs in Iran. He was a threat to the finally embittered and empowered and determined leadership, supported by other powers on the outside, overthrew the government of Syria. This then led eventually to the events of June of 2025. This was the defining moment in the use of military power in the region. It was Israel's opportunity to strike directly into the heart of Tehran and the Iranian regime. And Israel did strike. And Israel penetrated Iranian airspace. And the ideas that the mullahs had, that they were impenetrable and great air defense and so forth, were shown to be totally hollow. And I'm sure the people inside Iran recognized that the boasts and the expenditures by the mullahs on this military hardware, it wasn't a very good expenditure. It didn't work. And then the United States came in, and the United States had its B-2 bombers escorted in and dropped the bombs that really put the seal on the Iranian nuclear program. Was it totally destroyed? Was it set back? Was it set back 18 months, 24 months, 36 months? No one really knows, at least those of us in the public don't know. But what was exposed were two things. Number one, that it couldn't be protected by the Iranian regime. And number two, that it was therefore a colossal waste of money by the Iranian regime to build something like a nuclear threat aimed at regime protection, when all it did was bring in power from the outside aimed at the regime. And $1 or $2 trillion over 30 years wasted on this, when that money could have gone to the benefit of the Iranian people, to the environment, to the development of better water resources for Tehran, sheer misgovernance. So, yes, there's a new situation in the region, but it's still an unsettled region. The new situation is a weakened government in Tehran, a government struggling to maintain itself in power against the wishes of its own people. A new situation, the recognition by other powers that Iran still constitutes a real threat of subversion, a real threat of misinformation and disinformation across the region. Iran still has its Houthi allies and will, of course, attempt to reestablish its axis of resistance. Even today, Hamas has not fulfilled its obligations under the first phase of the ceasefire. Even today, Hezbollah is not turning in its weapons in Lebanon. Even today, the Houthis are still present and armed and ready to strike. So the Iranian government was shown as being weak. However, and the other thing that was changed is the willingness to use force directly against that government. And what that government should understand is that force once used against it, it's easier to use force against it the next time around, and others will. So I think that that has changed. Unfortunately, what has not changed is the plight of the ordinary people in Iran. Despite all of this, and despite the weakness of the regime, it still holds a grip of terror over the people in Iran. And in fact, the strikes intensified the regime's efforts to destroy any or dismantle and murder any legitimate opposition to its rule. And this has been one of the tragic outcomes of this. So as we're here in Washington today, and it's the end of the year, the spirit of Christmas, as our MC told us, what a tragedy it is for the people of Iran that they've survived this, but so has this terrible, tyrannical, theocratic regime. I'm sure that there are powers in the region who are somewhat satisfied because they'd like to see the Iranian regime taken down a notch or two, but they're a little bit afraid of what might happen next. Maybe they don't understand, maybe they don't respect, maybe they don't have confidence in the people of Iran. But there is an alternative. And I think this alternative has to come more and more to the center of discussion of the region. And what is that alternative? It's a free and democratic Iran. And who can bring that about? No outside force. Not the U.S. Marines. Not the wonderful Air Force of the Israeli Defense Forces. Not the neighbors in the Gulf. Only the people of Iran. This is the only way to bring freedom. Mrs. Rajavi has a 10-point platform for the future of Iran. And I think at every opportunity, this needs to be brought to the fore in discussions with other nations in the region, in discussions in Europe, in the United States, here in the halls of Congress, but also inside every home in Iran. What could the future look like? What could it really be? Well, first of all, an affirmation of the people's sovereignty, freedom of speech, freedom of political parties, freedom of assembly, the opportunity to have a commitment to social freedoms and rights in accordance with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. You need a separation of church and state. It doesn't mean that you don't have religion. Everybody needs a spiritual dimension. But for it to have meaning, it has to be freely absorbed by the person, not enforced by a state. This was the fundamental lesson of the American Revolution. No established church. And it is fundamental to democratic governments everywhere. There needs to be complete gender inequality, an independent judiciary and legal system, justice and equal opportunity in realms of employment and opportunities for entrepreneurship for all the people in Iran, and of course, a non-nuclear Iran devoid of weapons of mass destruction. Now that's the alternative. I ask you, is this not the right alternative for Iran? We should ask Turkey, the Gulf states, Europe, the United States, is this not the future for Iran? 90 million people, heirs of one of 6 great historic civilizations of mankind? Persia, Iran, it's here. This is the time that the Iranian people can take comfort in the fact that the government of the mullahs is weakened. This is a time the Iranian people can take comfort in the fact that there's not any great magic that the mullahs have in terms of setting up nuclear weapons that's going to enable them to continue their repression indefinitely. This is the time to understand that change can come to Iran. That change is up to the people of Iran. And I just want to say that personally that I want to extend my respect, my appreciation, my heartfelt admiration to those who, inside Iran and out, who have worked so tirelessly to implement this 10-point platform for the future of Iran. It's the right platform for Iran. It's the right platform for the Gulf. It's the right platform for peace and prosperity in the region. So today, on the eve of Christmas, it's also the eve of the 250th anniversary of the United States Declaration of Independence. We're looking forward to this summer, 250 years from 1776 in Philadelphia. And what did we do then? We, group of colonists, we disorganized future Americans, people of every religious faith, people who had every different occupation, came together and agreed that certain rights were inalienable, that God gives these rights to people, and these people have the right to choose their government. That has been the message of the American Revolution for 250 years. It swept Europe. It swept South America. It's in Asia. It's time to bring that message home to Iran. And just as we did it here ourselves, no one can do it for you. So, people of Iran, blessings, heartfelt appreciation, admiration from those of us in the United States. The future is in your hands. Please have the courage and the wisdom to take it. Thank you.